Have you ever considered that the most terrifying things on Earth aren't found in horror movies? They aren't ghosts, and they aren't demons imagined by scriptwriters. They are real traces, buried hundreds, sometimes thousands, of years beneath our feet, waiting for the day we disturb them. Archaeology is often sold to us as a romantic journey into the past. But history does not always reveal itself in glory. Sometimes, when we peel back a layer of earth, we expose a chapter so dark it makes scientists recoil. We are talking about skeletons frozen in unnatural agony, brutal sacrificial rituals, and engineering so advanced it unsettles our modern understanding of the timeline. These aren't myths. These are documented facts, photographed and measured by reputable scientists. Yet, the more we dig, the more we realize we might not like the answers we find. In this episode of Signal 49, we are analyzing 6 archaeological discoveries that are more disturbing than fiction. From the frozen graves of the Arctic to the silent quarries of Egypt, these are the fragments of history that were never meant to be found. Let's dig in. The copper-wrapped mummies of Zeleni Yar. We begin in the Arctic Circle, a place where the winter feels endless and the ground is permanently frozen. Here, in a remote site known as Zeleny Yar, archaeologists uncovered something that challenged their understanding of the medieval world. The 2 mummies were discovered in Salakard, a city known as the Arctic capital of Russia. This remarkable city lies entirely above the Arctic Circle, overlooking the icy Kara Sea. Here, the average temperature hovers around 24 degrees F. And during extreme cold spells, well, you can imagine just how brutal it gets. Ironically, this harsh cold became a silent guardian, preserving the bodies in near-perfect condition for centuries. The adult mummy measures nearly 5.6 ft in length and has been identified as a fully grown individual. Beside it lies the much smaller mummy of an infant, estimated to be around 6 months old. What astonished experts was not only their ages, but the way they were buried. Both bodies were carefully wrapped in multiple layers of thick fabric, animal fur and tree bark. The adult mummy, however, had an additional layer, a tightly sealed casing made of copper. Just hearing that already hints at an extraordinary level of craftsmanship. This copper covering was not merely decorative. It reveals something crucial. This civilization knew how to produce and use copper. Copper also has antibacterial properties, limiting the growth of microbes and helping preserve the body more effectively. In a way, these ancient people were using a highly advanced preservation technology long before freezers or modern laboratories even existed. According to anthropologist Yevgenia Sviatova, when experts discovered that the wrappings were still intact, they did not dare unwrap them on the spot. The reason was simple but practical. They feared damaging both the fabric and the remains inside. Instead of opening them immediately, the team excavated the entire frozen block and transported it to a laboratory for further study. That level of caution alone speaks volumes about the importance of this discovery. Next, scientists plan to conduct detailed laboratory analyses, including DNA testing, forensic examinations, and historical context studies. Their goal is to answer a series of lingering questions. Who were these individuals? When did they live? Which community did they belong to? And why were they buried in such an unusual manner? Although the exact age of the mummies has not yet been determined, the excavation site known as Zeleny Yar is believed to date back to around the 13th century during the Middle Ages. Interestingly, this is not the first time Zeleny Yar has spoken. In fact, nearly 100 mummies have been discovered at this site over the past 20 years. The area resembles a massive history book containing a copper smelting workshop from the 16th to 17th centuries, burial grounds from the 18th to 19th centuries, and even an ancient cemetery dating back to the 13th century. And that's not all. Archaeologists also uncovered a copper bowl of Persian origin dated to the 10th century, found more than $3,700 in Meres from Persia, deep in Siberia. This raises a compelling question. How did a Persian artifact travel to this frozen land? Was there a vast ancient trade network far more extensive than we once believed? Or is this merely the first piece of a much larger story still waiting to be told? For now, it remains an unsolved mystery locked within the silence of an ancient tomb. the unfinished obelisk of Aswan. In the scorching heat of Aswan, Egypt, lies a monument to failure. It is a single block of stone so massive it defies logic. This is the unfinished obelisk, a 1,000-ton stone obelisk that has remained unerected for 3,500 years, lying silent within a quarry for more than 3 millennia. This structure carries not only the marks of time, but also unanswered questions about the extraordinary engineering capabilities of ancient Egyptian civilization. It is the unfinished obelisk, a forgotten marvel resting in the heart of the city of Aswan. Once the largest granite quarrying center of ancient Egypt, amid the sun-scorched, wind-swept landscape, the monument lies tilted within the earth like a sleeping giant. And most remarkably, it has never been erected. This obelisk is believed to have been commissioned by Queen Pharaoh Hatshepsut, one of the most powerful female rulers in history, sometime between 1473 and 1458 BCE. She intended it to serve as a secondary obelisk standing beside the Lateran obelisk, which still holds the record today as the tallest standing obelisk in the world, measuring approximately 150 ft tall, including its base. What is truly astonishing, however, is that if the unfinished obelisk in Aswan had been completed, it would have surpassed every obelisk ever erected. Its shaft alone would have been about 1/3 taller than that of the Lateran obelisk. So why was such an ambitious project abandoned? The answer lies in the visible cracks, clear evidence of a serious accident during construction. While still in the carving phase, the massive granite block unexpectedly split, rendering it structurally unfit to be raised as a monument. No matter how skilled they were, ancient craftsmen had no choice but to leave the project unfinished. Yet, it is precisely this abandonment that gives the obelisk its unique value. Because it was never removed from the quarry, it has become a perfect window through time, allowing archaeologists to gain rare insight into how ancient Egyptians extracted and shaped stone. Chisel marks remain clearly visible, and red guideline markings are still intact, as if the stone workers had only just stepped away yesterday. Through these details, researchers can reconstruct how ancient builders cut, shaped, and planned to transport enormous stone blocks, a feat of engineering that continues to astonish the modern world. Still, the question that fascinates many the most remains unanswered. How did ancient Egyptians plan to move a stone weighing more than 1,000 metric tons, about 1,200 US short tons? The most widely accepted theory suggests they used wooden sledges to drag the obelisk out of the quarry, then transferred it onto large boats to be transported along the Nile River. Upon reaching its destination, they likely took advantage of natural slopes along with pulley systems and ropes to haul the obelisk upward before gradually lowering it into a vertical position. To modern ears, this may sound straightforward. But accomplishing such a task more than 3,000 years ago without any modern machinery borders on the unimaginable. That is why, even today, it would not be an exaggeration to say that the unfinished obelisk is more than just an archaeological relic. It stands as a testament to the ancient human spirit of conquest. People who looked at a massive block of stone and envisioned a monument rising proudly into the sky. The solar ship of Pharaoh Khufu. The 4,600-year-old ship of Pharaoh Khufu. A mystery buried beside the Great Pyramid of Giza. Inside a museum in Egypt, there is an artifact that makes almost everyone stop and stare for a few silent seconds. An ancient ship, nearly 144 ft long, bearing the marks of time for more than 4,600 years. This is no ordinary vessel. It is believed to have belonged to Pharaoh Khufu, the ruler who ordered the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Its sheer size and immense age alone raise a fascinating question. Why would the ancient Egyptians build such a massive ship only to bury it deep beneath the ground? The story began in 1954, when an Egyptian archaeologist discovered a hidden burial pit located right next to Khufu's Great Pyramid. Inside were not gold, jewels, or stone statues, but carefully arranged wooden pieces. After excavation, researchers counted a total of 1,224 separate wooden fragments. Just imagine standing before thousands of ancient wooden pieces with no blueprints and no instructions. Yet archaeologists spent 20 months painstakingly assembling them, eventually reconstructing the complete ship as we see it today. That achievement alone is truly remarkable. What astonished researchers even more, however, was the material itself. About 95% of the ship's wood was identified as cedar, most likely Lebanese cedar, originating from a region hundreds of miles away from Egypt. This clearly shows that the ancient Egyptians not only mastered shipbuilding techniques, but also maintained highly developed trade networks for acquiring materials. The raw logs were cut, shaped, and polished, using relatively simple tools made of copper and flint. And yet, when examining the deck, the joints, and the graceful curves of the hull, one can only marvel at the extraordinary craftsmanship of the builders. The most important question, however, remains unanswered. What was this ship actually used for? More than half a century after its discovery, scholars still cannot agree on a definitive explanation. One theory suggests that this was a solar boat, a vessel meant to carry Pharaoh Khufu after death as he transformed into the sun god Ra, traveling across the sky each day for eternity. While this may sound mystical, it fits perfectly within ancient Egyptian religious beliefs. Another more practical theory proposes that the ship was used to transport Khufu's body along the Nile River, carrying him from the place of his death to the royal burial grounds at Giza. There is also speculation that it served as a ceremonial vessel for the pharaoh's final pilgrimage to sacred sites before his eternal rest. However, these remain only theories. Like so many mysteries surrounding the Great Pyramid and ancient Egyptian civilization, the true purpose of this ship has yet to be definitively answered. What do you think? Was it a vessel for a sacred cosmic ritual, or simply the ship that carried Egypt's most powerful pharaoh to his final resting place? The Frozen Woman of Yakutia. Let's return to the ice. In Yakutia, Siberia, one of the coldest inhabited places on Earth, the permafrost acts as a time capsule. Recently, scientists recovered the body of an ancient woman's mummy resting for over 100 years in the frozen ice of Siberia. In the frigid expanse of Siberia, where the cold is so intense that even breathing deeply feels enough to make someone else shiver, there is a story that sends chills through archaeologists and keeps listeners completely captivated. It is the story of a woman who slept peacefully for more than a century. Yet, when she was discovered, she remained almost perfectly preserved, as if she had left this world only yesterday. Hearing this, you might be wondering what exactly happened beneath that layer of eternal ice. The answer lies in Yakutia, one of the coldest places on Earth. There, scientists discovered the mummy of a woman believed to have lived in the late 19th or early 20th century. Surprisingly, what left everyone wide-eyed was not her age, but the near-perfect state of preservation of her body. This was not a dried-out corpse, nor merely a skeleton. Her soft tissues, clothing, and even her leather stockings were still intact. Just thinking about it sends a chill down your spine, doesn't it? According to Dr. Elena Solovyova, who was directly involved in the research, the woman's soft tissues were extraordinarily well preserved. And the reason had nothing to do with modern technology. It was entirely the work of nature. She was likely buried during winter, when the ground was frozen as hard as stone. Once her body was covered by soil and then locked into permafrost, the process of decomposition was almost completely halted. Put simply, Siberia unintentionally turned into a massive natural freezer, running continuously for more than 100 years, without ever losing power. The closer archaeologists examined the remains, the more fascinating details they uncovered. First, the woman was wearing leather stockings over which she had torbasa, traditional Yakut boots lined with animal fur, designed to withstand the biting cold. The lower part of her clothing was also made from fur, consistent with traditional attire worn by the region's indigenous people. This suggests that she was not a stranger to the land, but very likely a member of an ancient Yakutian community. And here is the detail that made many hold their breath. A cross was still resting on her chest. It was a small symbol, but one that opened up a much larger story about faith, cultural exchange, and the layered history of this frozen land. Just imagine in such brutal cold, people still carried their beliefs with them into the grave. And more than a century later, that belief remains there, silent, yet perfectly intact. Isn't that remarkable? So who was she? What was her life like while she was alive? Why was she buried with such care? And how many other frozen secrets are still resting beneath the Siberian ice, waiting for the day they are finally told? Unfortunately, for now, all of these questions remain unanswered. The Noblemen of Rontoy rare mummy with artifacts and mysterious tattoos. In June 2008, a remarkable archaeological discovery sent ripples through the scientific community when researchers uncovered the mummy of a man buried deep underground in the town of Rontoy, Peru. What made this discovery extraordinary was that the mummy was not merely an ancient human remain, but a vivid testament to social stratification within the ancient Chankay society. What immediately drew archaeologists' attention were the metal plates placed over the man's eyes, a rare and highly symbolic detail indicating that he once belonged to the elite class and held an important social position within his community. The mummy was preserved with exceptional care, wrapped in layers of finely woven textiles, and accompanied by grave goods such as silver bead necklaces, wooden figurines, and most notably, corn, the staple food of the local population. The metal pieces made of copper and silver were placed over the eyes and mouth of the mummy, serving as clear indicators of the wealth and power this individual once possessed. The face of the mummy was also coated with a red pigment made from mercury sulfide, a material commonly used in burial rituals for members of the nobility. This further confirms the deceased's elevated status compared to other social classes. Another fascinating detail is a tattoo found on the mummy's knee. Archaeologists believe this form of body decoration was exclusive to individuals of the upper class. Kit Nelson, an anthropologist from Tulane University, who directly participated in uncovering and unwrapping the mummy, stated that the tattoo held special significance for the Chansey people and functioned as an identifying mark of those at the top of society. However, using modern research methods such as X-ray imaging, scientists found no evidence of serious trauma to the man's bones. This has raised the possibility that he may have died from an illness. Although the exact cause of death has yet to be officially determined, the presence of unusual objects, such as 2 cotton balls, 1 white and 1 brown, along with items like thread bracelets and an empty wool pouch, suggests that this man was not only a spiritual leader, but also closely connected to religious rituals and communal traditions. This interpretation is further supported by the historical context of the Rontoy region. During the golden age of the Chankay civilization, Rontoy was a central city within a thriving agricultural community, surrounded by vast cornfields and notable architectural structures. Although researchers have not yet been able to determine the city's exact size in the past, the discoveries made here clearly indicate that Rontoy once played a crucial role in Chankay society. It was also closely connected to the Huaura River Valley, an important region within Andean civilization. Despite the rapid development of modern railway infrastructure, which has led to the destruction of many ancient structures, discoveries such as the Kiko Rontoy mummy continue to provide fresh perspectives on the history of ancient Andean peoples. From the finely woven textiles and precious metal pieces to the ceremonial offerings and religious artifacts, everything points to this man being a figure of great influence, possibly a religious leader or a powerful official during the height of the Chansey civilization. Even in death, his silver eyes are still watching. Finally, we move to Alaska, to a site that was originally thought to be a simple, abandoned village. It is called Nunalleq, ancient Eskimo village emerging from melting Arctic ice. There's a rather bitter yet fascinating paradox at play. The ice, melting due to climate change, is now revealing things that no one could have imagined centuries ago. And this time, what emerged from the Arctic ice wasn't a mummy or fossilized bones. It was an entire ancient Eskimo village asleep for roughly 500 years. Imagine this, a place that was once just endless white ice, suddenly revealing traces of a community that once lived, ate, laughed, and braved the cold in their own unique way. This village is called Nunalik, home to the Yupik Eskimos, one of the last Eskimo groups still living in Alaska today. Interestingly, during its peak, Yupik society was considered one of the most developed and prosperous civilizations in the Arctic region. Now, you might be wondering, prosperous in a land that's frozen year-round where barely any trees grow? Well, the discoveries at Nunalleq are slowly answering that question. When a massive block of ice melted, researchers from the University of Aberdeen were nearly overwhelmed by what they uncovered beneath. Thousands of artifacts were found, and remarkably, they were preserved in extremely good condition, as if they had been forgotten just yesterday. From animal furs and woven grass textiles to finely carved figurines and even human hair. Yes, human hair, which might give you goosebumps. But for science, it's a treasure trove. Nunalleq is believed to have been inhabited between roughly 1350 and 1650 during what is known as the Little Ice Age. While we today worry about the Earth heating up, the Yupik back then faced the opposite challenge: plummeting temperatures, expanding ice and snow, and rapidly changing living conditions. And yet, under these harsh circumstances, they survived, adapted, and even thrived. What particularly fascinates researchers is not just the artifacts themselves, but the stories they tell. Everyday items reveal how the Yupik maximized the resources nature provided. Fur for warmth, grass for weaving, driftwood and bones for tools. Each artifact is like a small puzzle piece, contributing to a larger picture of life in the ancient Arctic. Especially remarkable are the strands of human hair, which provide a rare opportunity to analyze the diets of the ancient Yupik. Scientists hope to understand how they adjusted their food intake in response to climate changes. Did they eat more fish, hunt more animals, or find new food sources to survive? In other words, hair was not only for appearance, it was a biological record of an entire community. Dr. Rick Connect points out that this discovery is not only archaeologically and culturally significant, but also offers modern humans a mirror to reflect on ourselves. The way the Yupik adapted to colder climates could offer clues about how today's societies might cope with environmental changes in the future. The village of Nunalleq, emerging from melting ice, serves as a reminder. Nature can bury the past, but nature can also tell its story. From the frozen massacres of Alaska to the copper-wrapped sleepers of Russia, archaeology proves that the Earth is a vast graveyard of secrets. These discoveries challenge us. They make us look at the ground beneath our feet differently, because for every discovery we make, 1,000 more remain hidden, waiting for the right moment to surface. Which of these discoveries did you find the most unsettling? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to see more content analyzing the darker side of history, make sure you are subscribed to Signal 49. See you in the next investigation.